See, the church didn't start with us 19 years ago, right? It started over 2,000 years ago, and God said, I want you to know what you're getting into. I want you to know what this uncommon calling is going to require. Acts 2, starting in verse 42. The Apostle Peter had just stood up and preached the very first sermon about the resurrected Jesus. 3,000 people got saved and baptized. I mean, this thing started with a bang. And they realized real quick, we can't treat this thing as common. If we're gonna run this, if we're gonna build this, if we're gonna be a part of moving this forward, we're gonna have to sell out. And that's what they did. They devoted themselves. Remember, that's the word of the year. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship. They devoted themselves to showing up, and they devoted themselves to getting in groups, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone, not some of them, everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together, had everything in common. They devoted themselves to giving. They sold stuff just so they could stay generous. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. Now we could spend months probably talking about that one passage, but I just want to mention 4 things that jumped off the page to me this week that they devoted themselves to. Go ahead and put that up. They devoted themselves to being in God's church. And they did it in an uncommon way. They were there every single day. They didn't do the we'll show up once every 5 weeks and catch a couple online here and there. They were devoted to being in the house. They were devoted to getting together in groups. They were devoted to giving, so much so that they were starting to sell stuff they had just so they could stay generous. And they were devoted to serving. You know how many people it took to volunteer to help to run a 3,000 person church, and all of them meet in homes with meals and all the things. People are serving like crazy. They were devoted to this stuff. And because they were devoted, they saw God begin to do uncommon things. Let's reread. Those who accepted his message were baptized, and about 3,000 were added to their number that day. That's uncommon. And then they blinked. Then they got real devoted. They blinked. Chapter 4, but many who heard the message believed, so the number of men who believed grew to about 5,000. I mean, this thing is just growing and growing and growing. And God's watching, and these guys are watching God do miracles, and people are being set free and healed, and relationships are mended, and sins are forgiven, and blind people see, and lame people walk, and all kinds of crazy stuff. And daily people are getting saved. And it was so uncommon what they experienced God doing in and through their lives. Think about this. When Jesus died on the cross, there was 120 followers. They called it the way. We now call it Christianity. There was 120 followers with a dead leader. Not real good betting odds that thing makes it very far. But 120 people with a dead leader, because of devotion to building God's church, has now turned into 2.4 billion people around the world saying, I believe in that Jesus. They saw uncommon things. Some of you know the story of the prodigal son in Luke 15. We talked about it recently. There's this kid, and he's all messed up, and he knows that he needs the father, and so he goes back to the father's house, but he's scared to death to go there because he might not be accepted. That's what people feel like when they come to church for the first time. And some of us, we've just been in church too long. We take that stuff for granted. And so when you serve on one of these welcoming teams, you're not parking cars and holding doors and making coffee and helping people find seats. You're running out into the driveway like that father did, and you're welcoming home prodigals going, no. In this place, you're loved and valued and welcomed. Come on in. We need you.